morning and welcome to another great episode of Enterprise Weekend, reaching you from Enterprise Television. I am Henry Igwebike, and today we'll be starting off with our newspaper headlines to see all that we have, and right after that will be our main conversation also. But please do well to be part of what we do. You can always find and reach us at enterprisetvnews.com. You may equally like, comment, and follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV7. We're very honored to have with us joining us via Zoom from Lagos State, Nigeria is Ola Jumoke Alawode James, a public affairs analyst. Good morning to you, Jumoke.
Excellent morning, Henry. How are you today, sir?
Fine, thank you. I'm doing great. Thank you so very much for your time.
Sure.
All right, so let's start off today, interestingly, with the first daily on our desk, and that is the Vanguard newspaper. We have a litany of interesting stories here. Economic hardship experts pick holes on federal government's planned cash palliatives disbursement. We equally have Niger Delta stakeholders to federal government criminals in uniforms shouldn't chase all thieves. And we have INEC prosecutes 774 electoral offenders. But our talking point for today would be on the statement made by our past president, Muhammad Buhari, where he said his economy security improved significantly under his watch. That's what Muhammad Buhari said, Jumoke. I don't know what you think about that particular statement. Is Buhari benchmarking the glorious times in his head with respect to the woes that his incumbent is giving Nigerians?
Oh my goodness. I read somewhere on X 2 days ago that the former president Muhammad Buhari is at the very least delusional. He's unaware, like we usually said during his 8 years, that he was unaware of a lot of things that were happening under him in his government. And so he has gone on, in his old age. I know that old people do forget very easily. But those of us, the citizens who suffered, and smiled under him, remember very vividly, that the security under him was worse than what he met under President Jonathan. The economy, the basic statistics. You don't need to go far, to remember that rice moved from 8,000 naira a bag for 50 kg bag to 25,000 after the Buhari administration started. Today, how much is a bag of rice? Between 80,000 and 120,000, depending on the brand that you buy. So I mean, the very best president, Buhari, is delusional. He believes what was sold to him. During his government, he used to make statements like that also, and there were claims that he used to print his own newspapers for him. He was not reading the same newspapers that the citizens were reading.
Yes, the president might be delusional, allegedly. The past president might be delusional, allegedly. But like I said before, do you think he might be right comparing what he has given us to what we have today? Like you did say, he came on board when rice was 8,000. It went to 25,000. Now it's about 8,000 naira, 80,000 naira. So is it fair to say maybe he's right comparing it to what we have today?
Okay, yes, in that the National Bureau of Statistics has been, is it disbanded or suspended? They're no longer giving out statistics. But I mean, you can Google the per capita income of the Nigerian under the Buhari government and Google it in 2025, and you find that we're now worse off. So in that regard, yes, we have become worse. I mean, a dollar was 800 naira under him, and today a dollar is almost 2,000. They would claim that it to float. They've removed some fuel on forex and all of that. In false lives where we were getting, and we're now having to switch off our lives because you filled your fuel tank for 60,000 naira. We no longer, go out anyhow. But some people claim that we're still enjoying, that we're still having parties, Nigerians and their Owambe. But really and truly, the per capita income of the Nigerian has deteriorated in comparison to what we had under the Buhari government. Again, the Tinubu government would ascribe a lot of that to the things that happened under the Buhari government, claiming if subsidies had been removed, by now things should have stabilized more, that they inherited a lot of debt, although they've taken us far worse than Buhari did in all of these 8 years, in their own 2 years, But if you're comparing apples and apples, right, you can say we have become a little worse under the Tinubu administration than we were under the Buhari administration. But I mean, our downward spiral started under the Buhari administration. He was unaware of a lot of things. Remember, for the very 6 months of his administration, he had no ministers, people who were supposed to have foresight and direct our ministries. He kept on looking for them for 6 months. We thought he was going to bring them down from heaven, only to bring our local champions, who also didn't do anything in the 8 years of his administration. Yes, Terry, if you say we're better off under Buhari, we didn't know we could get worse. Yeah.
It's actually very, very sad that we are doing a comparison of Buhari and
of bad and worse.
Of bad and worse. It's very unfortunate. But let's take a look at this other story. 2023 polls. INEC prosecutes 774 electoral offenders. Speak to me on this particular matter. Is this equal to what we see in the Nigerian police force, where Egbetoku, who should have retired, is retiring, or has under him, or his mates have retired, but he still remains as the IGP? On this particular case for INEC, do you think it's fair for Professor Mahmoud Yakubu to prosecute electoral offenders when he himself equally should be the first? Do you think so?
Let's compare apples and apples, then, right? Professor Mahmoud Yusuf went to the Ghanaian elections and applauded them, where opposition party actually won the elections, meaning that nobody switched off the server, right, during collation in Ghana, right? So absolutely, he should first of all admit his own failures. But again, if you are prosecuting over 2,000 INEC staff, it points to how shabby our last elections were. But I would say, if the head is rotten, what can you do to the body, right? The head gives direction, does leading, So if somebody explains Nigeria to you, and that is comparing IGP Egbetoku still being in power, when he's saying if you are over 60 years old or you've spent 35 years in service, you ought to be retired. I mean, he should not take his own medicine.
Yeah, exactly.
Explain Nigeria to you and you understand, Henry.
Honestly, Nigeria should be studied. I don't think that subject would lack students, because it's just one subject that everyone around the world should study, so they can avoid that in their countries. But let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper for this morning, and the talking point here is El-Rufai Amechi party chieftains with axe to grind against the APC. Tell us this developing event happening in the APC. It seems like the center is no longer holding. For 2 years now, they've not called themselves together. According to the manifesto, according to the APC Act, it says they should at least have 5 meetings in a year. it's close to 2 years they've not had one. And of course, these chieftains are angry. Do we see a downfall of the APC in the nearest future?
You know, the led faction of the Austrian state, part of the APC, have gone to form their own party, right? We see this happen all the time, where our political parties are not about ideologies, they're political platforms for people seeking office. When they lose out, they start to claim, oh, somebody's godfather is not being godfather again, you are not God, and they leave to form their own parties. It happened with the PDP, where former Vice President Atiku lost out, and he led, Saraki and several others to join the APC. When the PDP faction of the APC now realized that under the Buhari government, they were also not recognized the way they wanted to be, aside from Saraki being the Senate president. And if you remember how he forced himself to be Senate president, they were doing inauguration, they had gone quickly and sworn himself in. Anyway, yeah. So we're used to, when that faction realized that they weren't getting what they wanted in the APC, they eventually returned to the PDP. Remember, while Wike was swearing that no, those of them that had stayed in the PDP all the while, we're not going to give the machines of the party to the returnees. Nigerian politicians are anywhere bele fits. They're neither here nor there. It's not about ideology, that this political party is about this ideology and we stick to it. We believe in that ideology. No, it is which party will give me a platform to seek political office. So that El-Rufai is now crying blue murder. People are reminding him, sir, you went to Chatham House during elections. Instead of allowing Tinubu answer questions, you answered on his behalf.
Very true.
Amechi, you wanted to be president. Once they didn't give you the party's platform. I think he came second in their party. What is it they call it? Where they go to pick their flag bearer. Exactly. He came second to President Tinubu. Immediately he went back home, singing a new song. We are used to it. In Abeg grass, we are looking for how much is a bag of rice in your locality, Abeg? APC matter no concern me.
Very so unfortunate, actually. But let's quickly for the last daily for today, the Saturday Punch. We have some interesting stories here too. Lagos community where Christians and Muslims, traditionalists worship side by side. And of course, we equally have on the top strip here, my brother has never demanded a kobo for funding my election. That's coming from Adeleke. And also we have Warri Refinery undergoes maintenance 1 month after resuming operation. I'd love you to speak on this issue. Nigerians have come up to say a refinery that's already closed down for maintenance just less than how many months after starting up. Is it possible that the refinery in the first place was even working?
Some of us did not buy their lies in the very first instance. They rushed. The Dangote refinery was going to come up. The cabal that were in charge of the oil industry were not going to allow their golden goods go out of their hand, or they weren't going to allow it to be killed, right, without a fight. So they came up with the refineries are up now. But what we heard was that they were just actually blending. When the refinery is up, you don't see just smoke. The fire is never extinguished when a refinery is actually refining. What they did was open up parts of the refinery to blend in our crude is called sweet crude. Meaning when you mix it with any other kind of crude, it just makes it better. So you could blend by adding chemicals and get petroleum. Remember when we were young, we had this foam things that you had in the boxes or from your TV or radio set. When you put it into petrol, it became glue that you could use for your fine art and things like that. Pretty much something similar to that. Science is dynamic, right? So what they were doing was blending. They're not tired of blending, I guess. because they had been accused of opening their own blending plants in Malta. And now the moribund, defunct refineries that have not been alive and we have been throwing money for turnover maintenance for many, many years, eventually has now gone comatose again. We were never deceived by all of that theatrics and shenanigans in the first instance. We knew we were going to get here, you know. So I'm not surprised about this story. They're just tired of telling their own lies and, you know, allowing the refinery go to rest. Remember, just before the Yar'Adua administration, Dangote had tried buying the Port Harcourt and Kaduna refineries. At the time, I think they could have been revived. Now, I think they should just go and remove those things, you know, and if they really want refineries, build new ones. We've spent way more trying to revive those old, you know, equipment than is necessary. They should stop lying to us and lying to themselves. Really.
Very true, and it's quite unfortunate that this is happening right under the nose of the substantive minister of petroleum. That's our president, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. It's actually quite unfortunate, and he's equally not saying anything about all the shenanigans, just like you did say, that's happening in the petroleum industry and ecosystem. It's actually quite unfortunate, but we just have to leave it at that.
I'm not going to accuse him, but there are accusations about his family. I mean, you know the allegations about Wando and all of that. I'm not going to spread rumor, but again, his silence is very loud.
And just to let you know that Wando actually, they presented a profit of upward of about 300%.
Huge profit. Imagine. I'm not going to be the one to allege you.
All right, let's just leave it at that. Of course, it's a developing story, just like we did say. When someone explains Nigeria and you understand, then the person hasn't done a great job. He has to still explain better. That's just about the time we have for now. And just to let you know that Jumoke will be here to take us on our main conversation, and that is when we return. NANS commend NEL Fund for a transparent and merit-based loan disbursement. That in a bit, please don't go anywhere.